Hi, welcome to iHeartMess. I'm Emily Kirkpatrick, and I'm back with my review of the worst dressed individuals at the 2026 Met Gala. This year's theme of fashion is art proved to be troublingly broad for many stars, producing what was perhaps the gala's worst red carpet in recent memory. And given the typical low standards the Met is held to, that's really saying something. My eternal thanks to Ruth Ann Harnish for sponsoring these videos and bringing these horrible opinions to your digital inbox month after month. If you want to hear every single thought I had about the 2026 Met Gala, you'll have to sign up for my newsletter at iHeartMess.com. But for now, let's take a look at my 7 least favorite looks of the night. To begin with, we must talk about Sarah Paulson's hilarious attempt at staging a protest on that Bezos-funded red carpet, wearing a full runway look by Matières Fécales. Cool attempt at iconoclasm, bro. This is just amazing to me because how do people keep misunderstanding the overt message behind the specific collection time and time again in a way that ends up only enhancing the irony of it all? I would love to know what Sarah Paulson thought she was doing by wearing a shredded gown and blinding herself with a dollar bill at an event where tickets cost $100,000 to attend, her own ticket included. Like, are you not the very thing you're critiquing here? I don't believe there's a way to attend this Amazon circle jerk while making any sort of actually effective, substantive public statement against it. Also, I remember the fall 2026 collection this dress comes from, titled The 1%, sparking a similarly outraged debate when it debuted, as everyone was pissed off that they cast Brian Johnson, the Don't Die guy, to walk in the show. But they all also seemed to studiously ignore the context of the show, which was a clear critique of capitalism, wealth inequality, and the lengths to which the rich and famous will go to freakishly alter their appearance while ignoring the real plight of those in need around them. Like, hello? Anyway, the moral of the story is that I love Matières Fécales, and I love that this collection is so thoroughly misunderstood by rich people that they keep accidentally, comically, proving the designer's whole point. Kim. Now what the hell are we doing here, girl? I will say, this actually wasn't bad. It was just boring, but not bad, especially by Kim's standards. It was also very much on theme, so all credit there. It just simply is not the type of media outrage spectacle Kim typically manages to generate on this night, and so desperately needs at this particular juncture in her career, even in the midst of her quest to infiltrate and co-opt her boyfriend's F1 fandom. While I found it quite amusing that she matched her sister's articulated nipples in yet another non-Skims garment, I quickly came to realize that the real problem here is that every outfit Kim wore for this Met Gala photo shoot she posted on Instagram was radically better than what she ultimately chose to wear on that red carpet. While I am partial to these custom assless bloomers, I think the real flop was not choosing to wear this black molded metal ass-out gown with exaggerated faux breasts. This would have been major. A high fashion moment for the ages. I get that it probably wasn't chosen because it's not something she can actually walk in, but is that not the whole point of the night? They have those buff ushers lining the steps for a reason. If Tyla could be teleported down the red carpet in that sand dress 2 years ago, surely the same accommodations could be made for Kim in this stunning half-and-half dress, picking up right where Chappell Roan's Vivienne Westwood left off. But the moment I knew Kim had really flubbed it and actually completely lacks any vision for her own branding and potential virality was when I saw her walk out of the Mark Hotel arm in arm with the artist who designed these chest pieces, Alan Jones. Because the visual impact of Kim, the most plastic, airbrush, cartoonishly proportioned woman in the world, standing side by side with this 88-year-old British man was absolutely breathtaking. The extreme aesthetic contrast turned everything going on here up to 11. And then she just ditched him and got in the Sprinter van. The fact that she nor anyone on her team thought to bring him as her date to the gala so we could all enjoy the red carpet images of these two together is extremely tragic to me. How does no one see the inherent meme potential of such content? The me and my sugar daddy core of it all. It would be Anna Nicole Smith's wedding photos all over again, or even just Summer Walker at last year's VMAs. As always, I find Kim's failure to live up to her own potential, even when it's all perfectly set up for her, depressing. Kylie and Kendall also attended in some trompe-l'oeil nude, bare-breasted situation, and I thought this was a very goofy family dress code, made even goofier by the fact that there's all these fake, rock-hard nipples and not a single Skims product in sight. I guess this is just yet another example of the way they flatten all fashion brands into their own personal brand. There's no need to wear Skims when now everything is Skims, even when it's not. That's the whole point. Kylie wore custom scaparelli that is basically just a way less extreme, less exaggerated version of the dress Kendall wore on the runway for the brand. I find it quite boring, but it is very on theme at least, much like Kim. And compared to Kylie's deeply strange choices in gowns in the past, I have to say, this might be her best to date. I also am surprised to discover that I quite like her without eyebrows, and I think she should consider making that a more regular thing. That said, this singular curl flopping about in front of her face all night was driving me insane. Kendall wore custom Gap Studio, and I maintain that if Gap Studio and its black tie gowns have no haters, I am dead. And also, did Charli XCX not wear a much cooler Marnie version of this dress to the same gala 2 years ago? Anyway, Kendall then ditched the t-shirt overlay for the after parties, making her Barbie body transformation complete. The hyperreal fantasy is alive and well in the KarJenner household. The sooner those gals can fully replace their real bodies with plastic mannequin parts, the better. And the last thing I'll say about Kendall is just that I genuinely do not get this stage stunt. Why do this winged victory thing where absolutely no one can see it inside the museum? Why does this have to live exclusively in a single still image? If this is the reference they were going for, this very easily could have been achieved on the red carpet. After all, it's just a chiffon cape with a pole poked through it for some structure. If all elementary school children ever can achieve this effect for their homemade bird costumes, surely the brilliant minds at Gap Studio could whip up something comparable for Kenny. Now we must discuss Katy Perry, who made the very wild choice of showing up to this gala while in the midst of being investigated over sexual assault allegations. But putting aside her entire personality and legal woes, I was initially feeling quite beneficent towards this outfit because at the very least, Katy did not show up to this event dressed as a giant paintbrush and palette or wearing a picture frame as a necklace, as is typically her wont. Also, at this point, y'all know how I feel about a metallic reflective face mask and the fact that I could not tell who this was the entire time she was on the red carpet. I did, however, instantly have some feedback for her, which is that this headpiece is poorly constructed. Ideally, it should be a solid metal orb with a wig plopped atop it, not this strange porthole flap sewn into a medical mesh sleeve. And any credit I previously gave her for this styling choice immediately evaporated when I laid eyes upon this singed dress train. Burnt to what end? What is the story being told here? What is the empty metaphor she's gesturing at? I feel like when Katy gets dressed for these galas, she just heaps sartorial stunt upon sartorial stunt for attention's sake, instead of ever considering what the larger message of her attire might be. And tragically, even with the burn holes that look like the type of shenanigans you get up to when you're trying to make a piece of paper look old in middle school, I still thought this was not the worst thing I've ever seen her in. But then I went to look up these red carpet photos on Getty, where I discovered what she was getting up to with some tarot cards behind the scenes, and now I am incensed anew. Katy Perry must be stopped. Lauren Sanchez-Bezos attended the gala her husband purchased at her behest in a custom Schiaparelli gown inspired by John Singer Sargent's portrait of Madame X painting, which, judging by this red carpet, is apparently the only painting famous people have ever seen, and a reference that's symbolically a little too on the nose if you ask me. But even more embarrassing than Lauren's inability to purchase good taste as the richest woman on the planet is the fact that Anna Wintour approved 2 celebrities wearing dresses with the exact same artistic reference. Incredible stuff. Surely she hates her, right? Because how the hell else do you explain this predicament? The good news for Lauren is that Claire Foy's Erdem gown was a worse rendition of her own. But the bad news is that she will now forevermore be depicted in a Who Wore It Better face-off opposite Julianne Moore, who arrived in custom Tom Ford with Mr. Tom Ford as her date, the definition of an unbeatable combination. Too bad, so sad for the $200 billionaire. Better luck next year getting people to accept you as an interesting, famous, fashionable person. And I absolutely do not want to discuss these strongman singlet atrocities, but I just need to let you know that this one-shoulder monokini had the 70+ set in a chokehold on Met Gala night. Vera Wang and Cher were perhaps the worst offenders, but I promise you there were plenty of other sad examples as well. I need to understand the logic behind why they all gravitated towards this exact asymmetrical strip of fabric bifurcating their décolletage. And I have to conclude today's red carpet recap with this image of Olivia Wilde locked up in a Tom Brown butt cage. After a year of odd bustles tacked onto famous keisters, the design element has now reached its ultimate steampunk form. This looks like Olivia sat down in an old cane chair and got stuck. And while I absolutely hate it, I do think that's a powerful mental image to conjure in your audience's imagination. Plus, as I've said before, I simply love a gown that makes it look like you're tooting out a clouded tool in your wake, and this is no exception. As for the Met Gala after parties, the must-have late-night uniform came across loud and clear. Skin-tight lace, a thong, and nothing else underneath. If you needed any further evidence of what an absolute snooze fest this combo is, here you go. This Saint Laurent party was a big old yawn fashion-wise. I thought we'd put this aesthetic to bed in 2023. Don't get me wrong, everyone looks sensational, body tea, etc., but nudity has long since lost its shock factor, and we must develop fresh approaches to embodying sexiness, because this is simply no longer cutting it. Okay, like I said, I have many more Met Gala opinions where those came from, but they're all over on my newsletter at iheartmess.com. Hope to see you there. I'll be back with a recap of April's most appalling fashion ASAP. Talk soon.